House is resumed. I call on Government Orders of the Day numbers 1 to 3.
Taxation Annual Rates for 2015-16 Research and Development and Remedial Matters Bill, Committee Stage continued. Weathertight Home Resolution Services Amendment Bill, Committee Stage continued. Radiation Safety Bill, Committee Stage.
I declare the House in committee for further consideration of the Taxation Annual Rates for 2015-16 Research and Development and Remedial Matters Bill and the Weathertight Homes Resolution Services Amendment Bill, and for consideration of the Radiation Safety Bill. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker. I suspend the House. Mr. Nash could sit down for a while. I've got a bit to read out. Members, the House and Committee for further consideration of the Taxation Annual Rates for 2015-16 Research and Development and Remedial Matters Bill, the Weathertight Homes Resolution Services Amendment Bill, and for consideration of the Radiation Safety Bill. Members, we turn first to the Taxation Annual Rates for 2015-16 Research and Development and Remedial Matters Bill. When we were last debating this bill, the question was that Part 4 stand part. The Honourable David Cunliffe had the call and he has 3 minutes 45 seconds remaining. Does any honourable member wish to take the call?
Mr. Chair.
I call Stuart Nash.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
This is just debate on Part 4 and this is clauses 221 to 267.
Yes, it is Mr. Chair, you're dead right there. This is one of those bills, Mr. Chair, where I think it's worth spending just a couple of minutes going over the crux of this, because it's one of those bills, Ruth Dyson, where it is very, very technical in some parts, but very, very important in other parts. And by and large, Labor agrees. Labor had agreed with the majority of the bill, and we spoke in favour of a lot of the bill. We had a number of concerns, but there was one part of the bill, Mr. Chair, that we didn't agree with, and I'd just like to go over these if you'll indulge me, and that was setting of the annual rates. What this bill does, Mr. Chair, is it actually sets the tax rates for the following fiscal year. It's actually retrospective, of course, because the budget's passed, but we believed that those rates were inequitable. And that is the reason why we had great difficulty supporting this bill in its entirety. And if I remember rightly, David Clark...
we're actually on Part 4.
Sure.
What you're mentioning is on Part 2. We've already handled Part 2.
Okay.
We're on Part 4.
Well, Miss Ruth Dyson's dead right. It was a long time ago. I just wanted to bring those who are watching this on television up to speed, because this is the first week back, and a lot of people have been looking forward to the resumption of the debate on this tax bill, and they're probably sitting there with bated breath. And like myself, they picked up the bill for the first time in nearly 2 months, and they've gone, now goodness me, now what was that bill about again? It's exactly what I had, because I remember when we left this house, when the debate ended, we were in full flight. We were going hell for leather. Part 4 was, we were like a horse galloping, and then we were stopped. And then we were stopped in mid-stride. And then we've had to get back on that metaphorical horse and just really get things going. So, so here we are. We are looking at Part 4. This is amendments to other enactments. And this, by and large, affects the amendments to the Tax Administration Act 1994, a very important piece of tax legislation, which basically sets the scene for a number of pieces of tax legislation, as I was saying. But, Mr. Speaker, can I please grab a drink so I can? There is one thing I would like to talk about, and this is Clause 230. Excuse me. And what this does is, this is statements in relation to R&D tax loss credits. And what it says, Mr. Chair, is something that I think we should be slightly concerned about. And the reason I say that, thank you very much. just debating this in FEC today, what it says, and I quote, this is 70C Part 1, a person must file by electronic means in the form and electronic format prescribed by the Commissioner a statement in relation to. And then what that does is it sets out a number of statements that obviously you have to file in relation to. But the interesting thing about this is it's very prescriptive, and it says that a person must file by electronic means. Now, the reason why I think that this is quite important, and we need to sort of tease this out a little bit, is that FEC today actually debating another, discussing another tax bill and looking at the ramifications of well, not the coming digital age, the digital age we're in at this point in time. The IRD made a very good point when they said we are not going to require people under this tax legislation to just submit by electronic means. What the IRD said is we understand that not everyone is on email, not everyone has access to electronic means, so we are still going to allow the option of submitting by writing. So if a taxpayer wants to, they can go to an IRD office. Well, there actually aren't many of those left because you've closed them all down. But what they can do is, I suspect they can probably go to a Citizens Advice Bureau or somewhere where someone will download the IRD forms, where they will print them out and they will give them to this taxpayer, and he or she can go back to wherever they came from and fill out the form, put it in the thing called an envelope, put this thing called a stamp on it and post it to the IRD. Now, the IRD were quite clear that this was an important process, and a number of the members in the government will remember this debate, and we all agreed that at this point in time we could not be so prescriptive as to discount the ability of taxpayers to submit a written form, whereas this says it must be done in electronic format. And I'm sort of wondering why this legislation is a little bit out of step with the legislation. Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair?
I call
Mr. Chair?
Robertson.
Mr. Chair, I'm sure my colleague